When Granblue Fantasy Relink was officially revealed in 2016, expectations for the project were pretty high. By that point, the franchise had already reached acclaim through its popular mobile game and anime adaptation, and this was meant to be a fully realized adventure within this world. Almost 8 years later, Granblue Fantasy Relink is finally here, and delivers what I feel meets the expectations of general fans. But the overall experience may not truly scratch that action JRPG itch you've been having. Granblue Fantasy Relink allows you to choose either Gran or Dicha as your main character. This doesn't really change any of the story beats, and the characters generally play the same, so choose your favorite and go from there. The story follows an original adventure after most of the crew has already met, which means fans of the IP will catch up a bit faster to what is exactly going on. Further, the story is only about 10 to 12 hours long, which leaves little time for actual character development. Still, there are options for players to learn more about the characters, but we'll get into that later. The actual themes of the narrative simply revolve around the bond between Jita and Lyria, and then later gets rounded out by the antagonist, Id. While supporting characters such as Roland play significant roles in progressing the narrative, none of the other crew members get the chance to actually grow. I mean, sure, this runtime and lack of significant character growth might be negatives, but this is one hell of an adventure. Every moment of this game is packed with epic set pieces and memorable boss encounters, and that becomes the main driving force to press on. In retrospect, focusing mainly on the leads was a good choice not to lose sight of the overarching narrative. It allows players who may not be interested in this world a chance to get a taste of it without busy work or overly grinding sections. Considering the brief campaign, I won't spoil any of the big moments, but it keeps its pacing fairly well and offers more than enough diversity within questlines and objectives to never become dull. The world of Granblue Fantasy Relink isn't as open as other entries in this genre, but that doesn't mean that the developer cut corners with this experience. There are several towns to visit and explore alongside its various themed islands, which you can gain access to over time. Exploration is highly encouraged, but the lack of a real map becomes an issue early on. There's a compass that shows you the direction of points of interest, but the stage designs can be pretty complex, making it tough to find your way, especially in a town. The sense of confusion becomes even more apparent post-game when you have to deliver and accept quests because you have trouble finding in the NPC. Still, the environments are very well designed and fun to explore, which is rewarded with hidden materials and treasure chests. The campaign plays a bit differently when compared to side quests and online content. During the campaign, the stages represent traditional action levels where you move throughout the stage and conclude with an end boss. With that said, there are different objectives that creep up between these 2 points that shake up gameplay with more enemy encounters and other things to do. On the other hand though, the side quests are accepted from the quest counter and range in difficulty, but these are more traditional arena-based levels with objectives that include wave-based battles, bosses, material collecting, and tower defense situations.
One stroke, 1,000 deaths. Butterfly effect. Moonrise. Catalina. I'll end them. Go full into the icy beyond. Charlotta. Bear witness. Snowball. Execution. Justice prevail. Captain. Roger that. Tempest flame. Time of chaos.
Be torn it off. You can only take so much punishment.
Understood.
I actually never felt like I had too little or too much to do, but if you do want more, there are optional character-specific chapters called Fate episodes that dive into each individual character with extra stories that unlock as you progress. The additional benefit of these is that it raises your character's stats along with providing optional difficult battles, but you actually can't skip the text-only chapters upon first viewing, so keep that in mind if you're just looking for the rewards. Aside from the core crew, you'll be able to unlock various other characters as you reach milestones in the campaign. Even if you can choose the character and take them into story missions, they aren't actually featured in the story scenes, but you do have access to their individual Fate episode chapters as mentioned earlier if you want to learn more about them. Interestingly, every character has a unique fighting style that opens up so many possibilities in terms of party creation and strategy. Each time I chose a new character, I had to really practice with their combo strings and skills to determine the highest damage output. Depending on the enemy, specific characters are just a better match, and some of the post-game enemies are actually no joke. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that the entire post-game experience is basically Nier Automata meets Monster Hunter. The boss battles resemble 3D shmup-style arenas where you have to time your attacks and avoid telegraph damage. Further, the boss enemies have various phases and attack patterns that keep you on your toes and do require some strategy to get through. If you do fall in battle, a master timer begins to tick. Although you can be revived, once that timer ends, it's game over. At this point, the game becomes all about the combat and material gathering. The endgame turns into taking on quests, strengthening characters, and crafting new equipment. Your gamer brain then needs to shift to all of these materials you were picking up throughout the campaign that you didn't really understand. Slowly, you're forced to figure out how to earn specific materials or farm them for better equipment. However, it's not just the equipment that can be leveled up. Each character has a proper skill tree that includes options for improved weapon usage, attack, and defense. I would advise focusing mainly on your favorite characters because you'll likely never have enough resources to level up each character fully. Through online co-op, you can really focus on strategy, but I couldn't help but wish that there were some PvP modes to really show off my skills. Combat here is very flashy. You'll have up to 4 skills on cooldown and optional link abilities that grant more ways to cause damage. The controls are extremely responsive too, especially the dodge that allows you to cancel out of attacks and even gain invincibility if done at the correct time. As you take on more challenging quests, you'll need to start paying attention to your equipped sigils, which adds another layer to the game's character customization mechanics. There's a clear tie to Relink's mobile roots found within the loot and material farming systems, but there are moments, such as when you're surfing across sand dunes, where you kind of wish this wasn't tied to Granblue Fantasy at all, if only for a 50-hour adventure in this world, just to make sense. The audio direction for Granblue Fantasy Relink is just as epic as the campaign. The orchestral arrangements fuel the lengthy boss encounters with heart-pounding scores that keep you pushing forward even after a few falls. Further, both the English and Japanese audio tracks were great. I kept the English dub on because the characters talk to each other during dungeons and I didn't want to miss any of the conversations. Granblue Fantasy Relink showcases CyGames at their best. They don't attempt to reinvent the action JRPG genre, instead they focus on putting their unique twist on the formula. The result is a responsive and addictive experience for solo and online play. For those wanting the most, the online quests offer an almost endless supply of action. At the same time, the story campaign serves as a general introduction to the mechanics, but remains equally as epic. There is room for improvement though, and post-launch support will determine the lasting appeal of this experience. But for what it's worth, the wait was worth it, and I'm excited to see the future growth within this series. Noisy Pixel is giving Granblue Fantasy Relink an 8 out of 10. Thanks for watching. This video is brought to you by our supporters on Patreon. Noisy Pixel is run by a group of gamers providing independent gaming coverage through news, reviews, previews, and more. Check out our Patreon to help support our continued growth, and subscribe to keep up with all our future content.
Noisy Pixel.